Hey YouTube, Film Geek here. Today I'm talking about the 1981 film Heavy Metal.
What is it?
Do not try to escape. You are in my control. Look at me. I am the sum of all evils. Look carefully.
It's a one-way ticket to midnight. Call it Heavy Metal. That's right, Heavy Metal, directed by Gerald Potterton, starring Harold Ramis, Eugene Levy, John Candy, and Jeff Flaherty. Pretty much half of SCTV. Heavy Metal is based off of the magazine of the same name, which started over in Europe and then came to the United States in the early 80s. The magazine itself is just like the movie. It's a series of anthology stories. None of the stories in the magazine or the movie connect with each other in any way, shape, or form. Now, the movie kind of connects each one of these stories together with the wraparound story. The wraparound story is about a young girl that's being terrorized by this green orb called Lochnar. And the Lochnar is this being of pure evil energy, and it's telling this girl all these different stories of the different pieces of chaos that it creates throughout the universe. The first story after the wraparound is called Harry Canyon, and it centers around a taxi driver that, well, bites off a little more than he can chew when a really good-looking client falls into his lap. Pretty much falls into his lap. The second story is called Den, and this one, the main voice of the story is John Candy, and he actually voices a lot of the stories in this. I believe he appears in 3 or 4 of the actual stories, but this is his first main role, and he plays Den. Den starts off as a nerdy teenager who, with the help of the Lochnar, gets transported to this weird fantasy land where he's turned into a muscle-bound Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque action hero. Next up is Captain Stern. Captain Stern is the story of a, well, I guess you'd say a Captain Kirk-esque, do-whatever-they-want-to Federation kind of starship captain who's gotten himself in a little bit of trouble. He's on trial, and, well, wackiness ensues. Next up is B-17, and that tells the horrific story of a lost bomber during World War II that lands on a, well, not-so-nice island. So Beautiful, So Dangerous cuts it up a little bit with a little bit of humor about 2 drug-addicted aliens who kidnap a woman at the UN, and then she's later seduced by an alien robot that is voiced by John Candy. Yeah, that's it. That's the story. Drug-addicted aliens, John Candy robot, seduction, boom. That's the story. The final story told by the Lochnar is called Tarian, and it tells the story of a female warrior who seeks revenge against a tribe of evil men who destroyed her civilization. So what do I like about this movie? Well, first off, I gotta say that every story in this anthology is solid. Normally with anthology films, I find at least one story that I don't like too much, or I can rank each one of these stories by which ones I enjoyed the most and which ones I enjoyed the least. That's not the case with Heavy Metal. I enjoy each one of these stories, wraparound story included, equally. Each one of them is fantastic. The animation is great, which I'll get to in a second. The stories in each one of these are awesome, and the way that this flows between each one of them is so much like the magazine Heavy Metal that if you're a fan of the Heavy Metal magazine, but then again, if you are a fan of the magazine, you have seen Heavy Metal more than likely, or you're at least aware of the fact. As I said, the animation in this film is great. For the time. Let me put that in real quick, because I'm going to get a lot of snobs out there who are going to tell me that there's much better anime or whatever. But really, for the time period, 1981, in Western animation, this stuff is on point. A lot of the stories use a technique called retroscoping. And the way retroscoping works is that a model is filmed and then an artist draws over the model that was filmed in real life. So it gives a very unique look and a really cool vibe to the animation style. It's a very fluid and natural type of movement. Of course, the voice acting is on point. As I pointed out, John Candy is one of the biggest voices in this. He's in at least 3, maybe 4 of the stories. I can't remember. Then you have Eugene Levy and like half of the cast of SCTV. Harold Ramis does a voice in this. It's really amazing the talent that they pulled into this film. The movie itself was filmed on a budget of $9 million, and it did make a reasonable amount in its original box office run of about $20 million. The movie then got a re-release in the 90s, where it then made about $500,000 in about 54 theaters, which is, it's okay. I saw it. This movie was a midnight movie favorite of mine. I can't remember the movie theater that showed it, but around these parts, there was always a movie theater that had a midnight showing of some cult film, and this was one of them. I want to say it was our mall, Bannister Mall, but I'm not 100% on that. Anyways, I used to go see this movie a lot. It was great. It was just a blast. It was one of those fun little cult movie memories. And of course, I can't go without talking about the soundtrack of this movie. It is filled with heavy metal and hard rock of the 1980s from bands like Blue Oyster Cult, Black Sabbath, Devo, Sammy Hagar. That's just to name a few. Journey has a song in this. Everybody pitched in a little bit, it seems like, for this soundtrack. So all in all, heavy metal is a unique piece of science fiction history, and it's kind of fading away, in my opinion. I don't see as many people talking about it. I do know that there is a Blu-ray release for it out there. It is on DVD. It's not, as far as I know, a forgotten film. I just think that it's slowly but surely getting there. You can find it right now for streaming. It is on the Starz network, so if you have Starz on your cable provider, or if you have Starz streaming, you can watch heavy metal right now. Otherwise, you're going to have to rent it on Google, I believe YouTube, and Vudu. So hey, thanks again for checking out the video. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and as I always like to say, folks, keep watching movies. I'm gonna.